Leaving Neverland accusers speak out. Media missteps in the Jussie Smollett case. Plus, the woman under fire over R. Kelly's bail and a messy, messy reality TV cheating scandal. All this and more on Meet the Hollywood Press for March 3rd, 2019. I'm Alina Vission, and now your host of Meet the Hollywood Press, Joseph Kapsch.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to Meet the Hollywood Press. I am Joseph. Good afternoon, Alina Vision.
Good afternoon.
How excited are we to be here today?
We're always excited. It's Sunday Fun Day.
But I mean, last week we had our Oscar break.
We did.
It feels like we're always coming back from a hiatus of some sort.
It is.
Whenever like people are like, the show's not on, I'm like, no, me and Alina wanted to watch the Oscars.
We did.
We really did.
Yeah.
We needed to watch.
The Oscars with no host.
Anyway, exactly. Okay, so first I want to introduce my guests this week. We are welcoming back to Meet the Hollywood Press, Anita Bennett, the founder and managing editor of Urban Hollywood 411. Check it out online. She's breaking mad scoops over there.
I'm trying.
You're trying. You're doing a great job. Welcome back again.
Thank you.
And also, we welcome actor, writer, producer Harvey Guillen.
That's right.
I was so nervous I was going to mess up.
Nailed it.
Looked. Thank you. Who is starring in the new FX series that will launch in 2 weeks?
Yeah, March 27th.
What We Do in the Shadow.
That's right, March 27th.
Tell the audience a little bit about the character you're playing on that.
So I play Guillermo de la Cruz, and
Okay.
he is familiar to the vampires. If you're familiar with the actual movie, Taika Waititi directed, which Clemens, it's the same creator, so watch out for it. It's a mockumentary.
We're branching out on Meet the Hollywood
I like
Press.
that.
I love it. We had producers. It was funny because I got this like nasty comment from a person who shall remain nameless about like, why did you have X on the show? They're not like press. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Is Chuck Todd's show only press? I think he has politicians. I think he has celebrity. So anyway, thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You're part of our branching out guest panel. Okay, let's dive in. So tonight, debuting actually soon on the East Coast, the very shocking and horrifying, to use some quotes from the people who've seen the documentary, Leaving Neverland documentary will debut tonight, which features two of Michael Jackson's accusers, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, telling their side of the story of when they were, 7 years old, and they claim that Michael Jackson abused them. Now we're going to dive in here. I think what I want to start out with a question to you is, do you think this is appropriate for a filmmaker to release this when the individual is dead and he can't defend himself?
I think so, because when Michael was alive, there were so many payouts. There was a circle around him to protect him from these accusers, from these allegations. And there were supposedly a lot of payoffs. We had the young man, I think his name was Jordy. He was paid about $20 million. So is it appropriate? Absolutely, I think so.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of criticism that there is no one from Michael's camp in the film to dispute these allegations. So I haven't seen the documentary. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. And
I'm racing home from here.
And perhaps they should have given Michael's camp a chance to tell his side of the story.
Harvey, did you see it? Because I know you were you at Sundance? Did you?
I did not see it, but I'm jumping on that. I do want to see it because it's hard to, kind of pass judgment without seeing all the evidence. But if you have no one from their, from his camp representing his side of the story, so it's like, I want to hear everyone's side of the story. I think it'd only be fair to get like everyone's side.
Alina, can you think of a case, because I'm trying to, like, where someone who was accused of something, it was like posthumous, that they were like sort of doing a movie about, because I can't think of anybody. Like, it feels like a first.
Yeah.
Like, where, like, they're airing something about, like, huge allegations, but the person's not living anymore. Have they had anything like that before?
I can't think of anything like this.
No.
But I think if Michael were alive, there would be so many legal ramifications. I mean, his estate has already hit HBO with a $100 million lawsuit saying that they violated a disparagement clause.
Yes.
So imagine if Michael were alive. I think they would be doing everything that they could to stop this film.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, just this week, prior to the film being released this Sunday, both accusers sat down with Oprah Winfrey, and they also sat down for CBS this morning, for what I thought were pretty compelling and striking interviews. So Anita, what parts of those interviews did you find the most striking or the most shocking or surprising that you learned?
I think the two men have provided so much detail. It's very difficult to deny what they're saying. Now, I do know a lot of people in the industry who don't believe these men, who say they are just trying to get money. But the director, Dan Reed, has said no cash was exchanged. There were no payments. And I also want to say that there's a stigma coming forward, especially as a man, to say, I was molested. I was just watching You Got Served a few days ago, and all I could think when Wade Robson came on screen was Michael Jackson allegedly molested him. Yeah.
So my question about that, dialing back for a second, because Wade Robson was the star witness when Michael Jackson went on trial the first time for the young gentleman that you just referenced, that he paid out the settlement. And they said that Wade Robson's testimony is largely why he was acquitted, because he was on the stand and said, now in the Gayle interview and the Oprah interview, they questioned him on that. They said, you testified and said that he didn't do anything. What changed? And he says, I was being conditioned. Michael would say, and I'm paraphrasing to him at the time, if you tell anybody, both of us will go to jail, both our lives will be over. Do you find that it is in line with sort of like, and I'll ask you, Harvey, with everything you read, not that we're psychologists here, but do you feel that the behavior and the testimony that he's giving in this time around is in line with how a victim would operate?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for any victim, because everyone's journey is their own thing. But I do feel that we are so obsessed with it's become a form of entertainment. It's like we got the story from Michael when he was alive, and now that he's passed away, we want to hear more and we want to go nitty gritty. We want to know more, so we keep digging. So the truth eventually will come out. And so if this is what this documentary is going to do, then unfortunately, that's the truth, and we have to present it to the world, and we see it as it is. But it's very unfortunate that they can't have anyone from his party defend him, because it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Yeah.
Did you watch the interviews, both the Oprah and the Gayle, or at least see clips?
We actually have a clip for Oprah, if we can run that. It's in the tweet that I sent. So Oprah's the OWN network says Oprah reveals the reason she wanted to film after Neverland, and then tune in. But let's see if we can roll that clip.
Okay.
And tried to get the message across to people that sexual abuse was not just abuse, it was also sexual seduction. But for me, this moment transcends Michael Jackson. It is much bigger than any one person.
Oh, okay.
This is a moment in time.
I think that what she's saying is that this moment in time, so many people are coming forward with their truths, whether it was, sexual assault in the Me Too movement, or, just people are coming forward with their victim, hood. So maybe right now, these men feel now is the time that maybe they'll be believed. I think at the time when he was, testifying that nothing happened, the culture was a lot different. Michael was still alive. There probably still was that threat of, we'll come after you somehow, we'll sue you, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So the embarrassment that these victims felt.
There were also children at the time, and they say that Wade says he was coached on what to say. So it's just a really, really difficult situation. But I want to say this about Oprah. Oprah has gone on the record numerous times and said that she was molested repeatedly as a child, and she is an advocate for childhood sexual abuse survivors. And she says she knows there will be pushback from this interview. Her special's called After Neverland.
Yes.
But she felt so strongly that she wanted to interview these people. She saw like a pre-copy, and she wanted to be a part of this. And by Oprah injecting herself into this, it gives this film even more credibility.
Right.
And also with Gayle KIng, her best friend, interviewing them. Well, here's the interesting thing with it coming out of Sundance, too. Before the film was even screened, you had Michael Jackson defenders coming out against the film before even seeing a shred of the film. So the interesting thing to me is, in watching them, if you had come into this, did you guys find them credible? Like, did you find the accusers credible when you were watching them?
I did. From the clips I've seen, and I actually interviewed people who watched the film at Sundance and for a story, and they told me that it was horrifying, it was troubling. There are so many disturbing allegations in this film that at the Sundance screening, they had psychologists on hand to counsel the journalists who were seeing it. The level of detail that they provided, you can't make that up. And I do want to say that I don't understand why a grown man was sleeping in the bed with other people's children. They say Michael went to extraordinary lengths to have these extra security measures outside of his bedroom. No one was allowed in his bedroom without him welcoming them in. There were cameras outside his bedroom. There were motion sensor detectors. There were alarms that would go off. So, for all the people who say it didn't happen, this is not normal.
What parents would let their kid? I don't understand. I don't care who you are. If you are my child, you are not going to have a sleepover with some grown man.
Yeah, no.
I don't care who he is.
But you guys know we are in Hollywood, and celebrity is like an aphrodisiac. And people, we see this in the music industry. We see it in film and television. People, they lose their sense. The thought of the money, the fame, or even just close association with celebrity. We see it time and time again. And I do fault the parents. Wade Robson's mother, she's in the documentary, and she admits, I took a lot of gifts. I mean, Michael, basically, he gave these people gifts worth a ton of money. And so they are just as much as fault.
At fault.
It's the thing that you just said. You hit the nail on the head. You said Hollywood, because any parent that you talk to outside of the Hollywood, hemisphere here, will say, I would never let my goddamn kid go over with it. It is what you're saying. It's alluring. It's celebrity. You're saying they're showering them with gifts. The other kid, James Safechuck, was put in the commercial with Michael Jackson. So there was all that came along with that. So
he met Michael when they were doing a commercial. So I'm assuming that James was cast in the film, and that's when he met
That's
Michael.
what I meant. He was cast in it, he met him, but then to my knowledge, that led to some kind of childhood gigs and stuff like that. Okay, so the Michael Jackson estate came out against, and they filed lawsuit, but HBO was very strong in there, we are forging right ahead. Harvey, do you think the Michael Jackson estate protesting as much as they are against this film is an even bigger red flag?
I think it says a lot to being loyal to your client. And protecting them to the end. And so the estate is still protecting Michael, even, he's passed away, but he's still being protected. Yeah. And as I think any lawyer would for any of their clients, I think that they're just fighting for his name not to be tarnished even more. I mean, at this point, it's already been dragged through the mud. And, at this point, it's if this is what seals the deal and it's just the truth and it comes out, then let it come out. Let the truth just, surface and just come out and let everyone know, and then just seal it. And then we will have our complete story. It'll be locked, and we know the truth, and we can put that,
Do you think it's kind of funny on these parallel tracks almost, because you had Michael Jackson go on trial, and then you had R. Kelly go on trial, and you had them both acquitted the first time, and then their careers were able to continue, and now you sort of have the roosters coming home, or the chickens coming home to roost, whereas basically, where was I going with this? Because in other words, for a long time it felt to me that you were not allowed to sort of be vocal. There was this sort of cult of Michael Jackson supporters within the industry, and you, even if you had the opinion that you thought something was off, you weren't allowed, because you essentially, he had power back then to really kind of essentially do damage to you, essentially. Do you think that there's something to be said about that? That you sort of have these parallel, because of the Me Too movement now, that this is just sort of finally, quote unquote, for these accusers, justice in some way, shape, or form, or catharsis?
Well, it's always hard to separate like the artist. Like you love Michael Jackson for his music and you love the artistry that he brought to the world, but then it's like there's a person behind that artist, you know, and their actions, you know, that to be held accountable for their actions. And so if they did something wrong, and it happens all the time where someone drives up the wrong entrance on the freeway, you know, and they're intoxicated, and we look the other way because it's the star, you know, power, but they're people, they're human beings at the end of the day, and we're all held accountable for our actions.
And also Dan Reed, the filmmaker that you mentioned before, he's not, he's known for doing like reputable documentaries and films. This isn't like some, you know, hack that came along and just decided to throw like two opportunists on camera to tell their story. I found, what I've read at least, the graphic details of just from the reviews from out of Sundance, the kind of level of detail that they are describing and what had transpired between them and Michael. Either they've got wild imaginations and they are like worse than, say, like Jussie cooking up a potential hoax, or they're telling the truth. That's just from what my takeaway from. Again, none of us were in the room, but if you're looking at it, like the evidentiary support says to me, like if Michael Jackson wasn't a world-renowned superstar, and this was just some guy down the street that was like having his neighbors, would we even be questioning that he was guilty?
No.
Probably not. You know, what's interesting is Oprah said in the clips that they showed from her special that over 25 years on the Oprah Winfrey show, I think she said 217 episodes, she tried to explain to people how childhood sexual abuse happens, and she was not able to really convey that. And she said, Dan Reed did it in 4 hours with this documentary. So she praised him. He's a BAFTA award-winning filmmaker.
Yeah.
He's not some hack, like you said.
Yeah.
So he is credible. And another thing is, too, Dan said that Jackson's estate is afraid that this could cause damage to, quote, the cash cow. And what he means by that is we could have the R. Kelly effect where R. Kelly's music is no longer played on most radio stations. People are like burning his CDs.
Yeah.
And so the estate, he says the estate is concerned that that could happen with Michael.
With Michael. So my other question about that is, with HBO standing their ground on the lawsuit and it airing, and you saying that the guys are not going, the guys that appeared, the accusers appeared, are not getting any financial benefit from it?
They didn't get paid to appear in the film. Now,
back ends, maybe?
I don't think so. But they could be paid later for public appearances. I mean, we should put that out there. Right. They could get book deals. They could get paid for speaking engagements. So there is a potential for them to make a lot of money.
So that's more what I'm wrestling with. For anyone who will say that they were doing this for money, would you really want to stake your comeback career on, oh, I got molested by Michael Jackson, and that's like Wade Robson was a dancer. So I don't think that's going to lead to him. Well, he's probably too old to go back to dancing.
Well, he was a choreographer. He was one of the top choreographers in the industry. He choreographed music videos for NSYNC and Britney Spears.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't he the one that was at the not to digress, but at the core of? Isn't he the one allegedly that Britney cheated with? Okay. God bless you, Britney. They were young.
They were very young. But anyway, he was at the top of his industry. And again, that is a huge stigma.
Any final thoughts from any three of you before we move on to?
I think it'll just be really interesting to watch, especially after watching the R. Kelly docuseries and seeing the fallout after that and all that's gone on with that. It'll be interesting to watch this and see how people respond and react to this.
That's a good point. If he was living, would this documentary possibly have led to...
That is a very good point.
Another case being opened up.
From what I understand from people I've spoken with who've seen this is much more disturbing. These boys allege that, or these men allege that the abuse started when they were 7 and 10 years old. And it started with grooming. And, they would visit Neverland and be, like, plied with candy. And they say eventually plied with alcohol. And it led to, sexual activity. So it will be interesting.
Wow.
Okay. Well, we can't wait to watch everyone watching that airs tonight on HBO, Leaving Neverland. We'll probably be doing a follow next week and see what everybody thinks. But let's move on to Jussie Smollett. Okay, so it's been a minute. I should start by saying SNL. For those of you who don't know, Jussie Smollett was indicted on felony disorderly conduct for allegedly staging the attack by 2 Nigerian men that he claimed were MAGA supporters and beat him in the polar vortex weather of Chicago.
At 2 a.m.
As I hear myself saying this out loud, I'm repeating the facts. I'm like going, this sounds like fiction.
Right.
Oh my God, God bless him. So anyway, last night on SNL, did you guys happen to catch it?
I did.
Oh my God, they did Shark Tank. I don't have the clip, so I'm teasing people, but they basically did a Shark Tank edition and they spoofed him, and it was just, watch it please, the clips are on. But anyway, I want to start on a different angle with Jussie, because there hasn't, since we were last here 2 weeks ago, the only other developments were some murky reports about that the $3,500 check actually had written for training in the memo line, which I found to be personally a non-starter, because if I was giving you a check to go do a hit for me and I wrote you a check, I wasn't going to say memo to shoot my friends. I would probably say, oh, for that makeup and hair supplies or something.
Right.
So to me, the fact that that was like a story was completely crazy to me.
The fact that he would write a check.
A check.
Come on now.
That's even worse.
Well, my thing was, when I first heard the prosecutors lay out their evidence, and they said they had Uber records and text messages they retrieved from the 2 brothers' phones and the personal check, and I thought, wow, did these folks never watch The Wire? Did they never hear of burner phones?
That's what we were talking. We were texting back and forth. I'm like, have they never watched Dateline? Like
Dateline, The Wire, CSI.
None of it. None of those forensic shows.
Yeah.
So the other thing with that story, with the file, was that there was now text. Oh my God, there was a text from like way months ago talking about like diet plan, but was like nowhere near like the time frame that we're talking. I'm just, okay, so the superintendent, here's where I want to start, because I want to talk more about the media on this story, because in my view, Chicago local police, congratulations, because they never relented on this story. They knew something smelled funny. They obviously were sourced with the police, and they kept going. Where I find, and this is what I want to talk, I found Hollywood entertainment media, with the exception of a couple sites, just dropped the ball majorly on this story. And am I in the minority? Because I want to ask, what do you think of some of the biggest mistakes made by media in reporting this story were?
That's an interesting question. So this story was told out of Chicago. Every major detail involving the investigation came from the CBS station in Chicago, the ABC station in Chicago. I don't know where the Chicago Tribune was on this, but they've had a lot of budget cuts. Anyway, the trades did break angles, like Jussie was being, I won't say he's been fired, but he has been written out of the remaining episodes of this season of Empire. Now, the trades were ahead on the Hollywood angles, but I don't think a single trade or the LA Times sent anyone to Chicago to really investigate this story. And maybe they felt it wasn't worth it, because these local stations, they have deep sources in the Chicago Police Department. And what was really interesting to me is, at first I thought Jussie's camp was winning the PR battle in this by going on GMA, sitting down with Robin Roberts. I was like, okay, well, I get Jussie's side of the story. But what the Chicago Police Department did, they won't admit to it, but there was this drip, drip, drip of information being leaked to the local media. Yeah. And that's how we were hearing their side of the story.
Right. Well, the interesting part was, I was shocked because a bunch of Hollywood journalists, who I tend to respect some of these ones, where I would see their tweets actually going, oh, the sources, oh, please, 2 sources, and it's a local Chicago, and I'm going, the sources are from the police. It is the police. Like, we're journalists, we know this. Like, they're coming from, it's because the cops were basically smoking him out, because they're like, he's not cooperating anymore. He went on GMA and really pissed them off, because that's the next question I want to get to. Like, what do you make of the superintendent coming on with that press conference? Have you ever seen a press conference with that level of detail and a timeline that specific?
Not in a very long time. What I also found interesting was pretty much everyone involved in this investigation was African American. And so we can't say, well, they're targeting a black man. They're trying to refute a black man because the police superintendent was black. The lead prosecutor is black.
Yeah.
The judge in the bail hearing was black.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen that. So that was really fascinating to me.
Harvey, as an actor, because you're an actor right now. What would your take like in terms of?
I got most of my information through social media. Like really, when it came up, it bounced off because every celebrity was backing the story up. And there was everyone posting, "This is
justice,
an outrage."
Hashtag justice for Jussie.
And so my first take was like, whoa, that was the first I've heard of it. Because I saw celebrity friends and people posting it on Twitter, on Instagram, and it made me think, wow, we're really quick to defend one of our own, obviously, because they are part of our community, and because he's LGBTQ, he's part of the community. He
checked all the boxes.
All the boxes. And so
for social justice warriors, they were like in their glory on this.
But I will say this, it did bring up awareness for us, because I feel like you were saying earlier, when someone gets attacked in America, if they're LGBTQ and they happen to be African American, we don't hear about it. You know what I mean? And for once, we actually heard about something happening because it happened to a celebrity. Yeah. So when it happened to a celebrity, it brought it to the forefront.
Yes.
And so I will say, out of all this and all the chaos that's happening, we don't know what the actual truth is when it comes out. But when it does, it brought it to the forefront, and it has to be talked about.
The odd part of this story from the get-go, and Anita can attest this because we worked at TheWrap together during Empire's height, and I was a big fan of Jussie Smollett, and I actually put him on the cover of our fall TV along with like Jack Fowler. We did this first ever fall. So I was always, even to the point they're like, do we gotta write this story? Like, like I would be I would be getting,
I was never a fan of that show.
I was covering I was really covering Empire at TheWrap at the time. So this is a person coming from a point where I liked him. I think he's talented. So from the minute it happened for me, my instinct was not jumping on the justice for Jussie hashtag bandwagon. Something didn't smell right. And this is a journalist who's had like a year out of like daily reporting. Something never smelt right from the start. This is what I'm most angry about with Hollywood, though. So you just said about all you learned about. Why don't they why is Hollywood so bad at course correcting themselves? Because all of the people that were like on the band, and this is why Fox News is feasting right now still on this story.
Still?
Why don't they self-correct?
Well, it's with anything. No one wants to admit that they may have been wrong. But a couple of things. You mentioned how Hollywood insiders were kind of trying to play down the local stations because all their reporting was on background. I sort of understand that, but then we report on background every day. I just did 2 stories recently where I could not name the sources. Now I'm going to put it out there. Both sources were VP level executives in Hollywood. They just could not have their names attached to the stories. So when you see these stories on background, usually the details are coming from someone very high up. So I'm not even going to buy into that. Oh, well, they were anonymous sources. It was a police department.
It was the police department or someone well connected to it. I was following the story, and me and you were going crazy on text back and forth when the story was going on because we knew, we were like, something's up. We were looking at the Chicago coverage because that was the only place. Everything I looked at to Hollywood, I was like, if I was running a trade, I would have been embarrassed at the time because it was like, where were the stories that like inside Empire's decision to there was turmoil going on, like whether the network was like, he's got to go and the producers are trying to save him but like nobody was digging in on this story. It was crazy to me.
The trades cover the industry very closely, and they have deep ties, deep sources, and so they were being fed these different stories. And what I thought was so interesting, Fox. What I thought was so interesting was
the network said he's not leaving. I'm like, because the network said
one trade reported that he was being written out of the show, and then the next morning I get a breaking news alert from another trade saying Fox says it's not happening. So even Fox hasn't said, well, we were kind of feeding you some lines, it's not really true, because he is. Now he's being written out of the remaining shows.
If you went like the different phases of the Fox, it started out, Jussie's a consummate professional, we stand by him. Then the next day went, we realize the seriousness of this. We're exploring our options. Then the next thing was like, because it's such a serious situation, we're going to trust the legal.
Yeah.
I mean, we know this though. Like, I wanted to shake like the reporters that I even knew that used to like cover this, because I was like, why is nobody going deeper on this story? Why is nobody going deeper on this story? It was definitely a story that I missed not being part of, because I was like, there was nobody wants to be also, I think, the person that's like gonna second guess. You know, he's an African-American gay actor who wants to be that journalist in Hollywood that's
who's
like,
done nothing
he's
but good things.
He's done
Yeah.
good things.
Support the community.
Like, this was totally out of character of what
this
people
is so out of
knew.
character. So that's why I go back to saying what it has done is, you know, did he sacrifice himself and his name to actually bring such a light to this? You know, that's what I think. It's just like, we don't know what's the truth until we go to court and we hear it and all that. But we're talking about it today, and it's causing conversation. And we're
I can't stop talking about it.
And that's exactly what I think maybe would have been the point of that, and to shine light on the people who are LGBTQ, person of color. They are attacked, and we need to talk about it, and we are talking about it, and it just cost his career.
But I want to see these loud ass activists, I'm talking to you on Twitter, on Hollywood, that are always the first to come to Twitter and make a snap judgment.
Yeah.
Come in, like, I screw up, I make mistakes, and I own them. Like, it's like, if I was wrong about this, then I would say, I was wrong. And I've actually been wrong, and I've said that on the show. They are not crickets.
Yeah.
Crickets.
I thought about
Twitter.
going back on Twitter and Instagram, because, you know, the creator of Empire posted a video, and you're like my son. And,
Yes.
And I was like, I wonder if you go back to everyone who used that hashtag and everyone has just disappeared.
Oh, I have been going. And let me tell you something. The silence is deafening.
Right.
Do you think, though, it's a sign of the times that we live in? Because if you look at other places, like, let's say, politics, there's a lot of people that are saying not true things, and it gets, you know, debunked, and they're not coming back and saying, okay, I was wrong, this, that, and the other.
That's a good
and
point.
then the news cycle rolls over it, and by the next week we're talking about something else because somebody else lied. And so do you think it's...
I think that's a good point, because you're saying basically it's the
People
Hollywood
know.
news cycle doesn't
Yeah.
almost move as fast as like the political move cycle, so that's sort of like, oh, they're not going to think about it kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I also think that Jussie is beloved. He is an activist.
Absolutely.
And people just really like him, and so the thought
He's not beloved
that
right
he
now
may
in those
have
comments on Facebook
made
and
this
Twitter.
up, it just was so unlikely. Now, you know, way back when I worked in local news for a long time, and so, you know, people who work in local news, you see a lot of things. You see the worst in humanity, and you're always skeptical.
Yeah.
So I think the first day I believed, like, oh my God, this is horrible. How could this happen to Jussie? He's such a beloved figure. And then when I started to read like reports out of Chicago about the weather being almost sub-zero and no one was out on the street at that time, and Jussie saying he was going to Subway. I'm sorry, Subway's really not that good when you go there at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Where's the storm walk?
So then I started to become
And he still had that
skeptical.
sandwich intact. With the rope around his neck and the sandwich intact.
It just was a little hard to believe.
Yeah.
But I hope that Jussie finds his way. And, you know, his attorneys say that they are going to mount a thorough investigation and an aggressive defense.
So if you were, let's put our hats on for a second. If we were his team, PR and otherwise, representing, what advice would you be giving him right now?
My advice would be just come clean with the truth. The truth will always set you free. And I think for me personally, if somebody messes up and they say, I messed up, I'm sorry, and they own up to that, I'm much more forgiving than people who just keep lying on top of lying on top of lying.
And that's the way I feel. What okay, so let's pretend for a moment, which we don't know, but that he is guilty and he did stage the attack. If I was advising him right now, I'd say, get your ass in front of a video camera, Janet Jackson style, granted that was only like a nipple, and tape an apology and own this right now and do your whatever you're going to have to do. Pay back the cops. He has a better shot at a chance of a comeback if he owns it. It feels to me that everything being done right now on his team is all legal. It's like they're making moves that are just to like keep him out of jail, you know, keep his sentence lighter. You can read between all the lines, and also like the stories that it seems like his team are planting. They're trying to sow doubt, you know, reasonable doubt in the minds of. I think if there's more overwhelming evidence than the superintendent of police says there is, and that starts coming out and he didn't own it, I don't see where he can go from there.
Yeah, it sounds to me like police are hinting that they have a smoking gun. So
Yes.
it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
I mean, prayers for everyone involved, really.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on till next week. R. Kelly. We're going to move on from one Chicago case to another.
Did you see how they were both booked in the same?
Same judge. Yeah.
Same mugshot.
Same mugshot. Them cops are busy in Chicago right now.
They need a better setup for their
They do.
mugshots.
Got
Yeah.
that little crack in the wall right here.
Okay, the first thing I want to ask about R. Kelly, though, because the latest story that was popping was the woman that posted. Okay, first of all, he was indicted on 11 counts, which I want to be absolutely accurate in what I'm saying here. So they were 11 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse involving 4 victims, 3 of whom were underage. Aggregated criminal sexual abuse can carry a sentence of 3 to 7 years in prison. So he faces 10 of them, I'm sorry. Now, he's obviously saying he's not guilty. My question was, they posted, he had to post bail, it was $1 million, but he could have to post 100. Why couldn't he come up with that for like 3 days? Is that
Because he's broke.
They stopped playing his music on the radio station.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me because if you think about it, he made his money during like the heyday of selling records and all of that. And then in order to keep up that lifestyle, he was spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
And to keep this harem of women, I'm sure he was spending a lot of money.
all the different rooms and like
exactly.
the bed in the studio.
And eventually that money is going to run out. It's not like people think, in the music industry, you have a few hit records and then like you're set for life. But if you don't manage your money correctly, it's going to go real fast if you're living that lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you. Your husband's in the music industry. R. Kelly sold 75 million albums and records. One of the top-selling R&B artists of all time. And he wasn't just a performer. He was also a producer and writer. I just don't understand how he could be broke. Do you guys think this is just a ploy to keep from paying more people off?
No.
Oh, like he's hiding
broke.
his. Well, could he be hiding his money though, like illegally, because like he saw this coming?
From what I remember, he hadn't paid rent on his Chicago studio, I believe it was,
Okay.
or I think also his Atlanta house he got evicted from.
Oh, okay.
So I think he just can't manage his money.
That's right. In the documentary, they go to the house. In
Yeah,
Atlanta, and it's like
exactly.
banned,
And it's
like,
banned. Yeah,
that's true.
Also, R. Kelly came up in music towards the time like Whitney. Like, did he have songwriting credits on all his stuff?
I think he did.
Oh,
Yeah,
he did.
he did.
So that's
then
why,
Also, he
Residuals.
produced a lot of chart-topping artists. But we should also mention R. Kelly has said he's illiterate. He can't, or he's nearly illiterate.
Yeah.
He can't read. So maybe he
probably has
bad
people,
contracts.
right?
Yeah.
And he probably has people watching over his money. They
Yeah.
could have done something horrible with it too. I mean, yeah, he's
His
a hot mess.
attorney says he's broke, and he blames hangers-on and mismanagement.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, I want to talk about the latest story. So there's a woman, Valencia Love, who is supposedly the one that posted his $100,000 bail. Mm-hmm. And she is a 47-year-old businesswoman that basically owns like some restaurants, and now like they're saying like according to a report that I read this morning, like Yelp reviews, they're like pummeling her restaurants.
Yeah.
But her quotes were even I'm not going to say it was my money or Kelly's money, and he's not broke, the woman said. He's my friend, and I knew he needed help. He was going to get out regardless, she said. I just went out there to help my friend. She's saying he's not a monster. Well, she is paying the price. Did you guys see that report?
I've read some things like that, yeah.
Poor Valencia Love. So, what do you make of that, though?
You have loyal friends, I guess. They're willing to, have their name dragged through the mud as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. That $100,000 is a lot for. I love my friends, but that's a lot of money.
For someone who's like real guilty, I don't know. That's a lot of money.
And are you helping the situation? Or are you feeding it?
Are
it's
people even calling it alleged at this point? I mean, we know we do we have to in journalism.
And honestly, I know a lot of people who don't believe R. Kelly is guilty, and like the Michael Jackson case, they think the parents of these young girls, a lot of them early on were aspiring singers. They think the parents were also complicit.
Why is it that Michael Avenatti, who, in case people don't know, that's why I want you to bring that up. Bring up that. Can you bring that tweet up?
Because he's resurfaced.
Because he's the one that surfaced the tape.
Yeah.
Started. Okay.
Yeah. So this is his tweet. So he says, someone forgot to tell R. Kelly and his manager that under the law, a 14-year-old girl cannot consent to sex, especially when with an adult decades older, even if you film her and she, quote unquote, consents on tape. Imagine if the law was different. Abusers would have their victims always, quote unquote, consent.
Was that actually a real thing that his team is trying to say, that he filmed it to prove that she said it was okay? Is that actually real?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm not even laughing because it's not a fun.
Right.
For Michael Avenatti, though, how did he come into this? By the way,
he's trying to get redemption.
Yeah,
I think so.
He loves attention. But he said that someone approached him, a whistleblower, with a tape from way back when that showed, and this is not the same tape that sparked R. Kelly's previous criminal trial from which he was acquitted.
Yeah.
This is a different tape. And there was a girl who looked to be 14 on this tape having sex with R. Kelly. And on the tape, I think Avenatti shared it with CNN. And CNN was the first to report the details of it. On the tape, the young girl refers to her body multiple times as being 14 years old, her 14-year-old anatomy, her 14-year-old privates. And so Avenatti gave the tape to prosecutors in Chicago, and that launched a new investigation. Now, he's saying there's another tape.
That's what I just heard, yeah.
So we'll see.
He didn't learn his lesson the first time.
No.
Clearly.
R. Kelly.
Yeah.
Also, just with these celebrities, and just call me crazy, but if they're taping it, how do they allow that people end up getting their hands are you that reckless that you're wouldn't they just be put away it's kind
of like you want to get
it's
caught.
Like you want to get caught. It's just, to me, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The thing about R. Kelly feels like he wants to let everyone know that he's untouchable. You know, it's because every time he's taken to court and it's just off the hook, and it's what does it take? What do we have to do? How many documentaries? How many tapes do you need? How many tapes do you need to prove that this was done? And it's almost like a high, I think,
right? Like a god complex.
Yeah, it's just like a god complex, exactly.
We should also commend Dream Hampton, the woman who made Surviving R. Kelly docu-series that aired on Lifetime, because that was a game changer. It really does seem like these documentaries, these docu-series are really helping to shine a spotlight on things that should not have happened.
I do. Right. I feel like never more than now are documentaries becoming documentaries, and also New York Times reporting are becoming New York Times and Washington Post are becoming the basis for criminal cases.
Yeah.
I don't remember in my lifetime, and I've been here few decades, but I don't remember in my lifetime there being documentaries that have had such impact when it came to actually getting justice.
There was the one involving, and I can't think right now, but it was on HBO or Netflix or something, on the guy who allegedly killed his ex-girlfriend or something.
Making a murderer?
Yeah, making a murderer.
Did you guys watch that?
I did.
Okay, I still have yet to see it. Did you watch it?
Well, are you talking about Making a Murderer? Or
there's two. There's two.
Okay.
Making a Murderer was...
it wasn't his girlfriend.
No, that was the second one. That was the young couple. But there was another one, a rich man who supposedly killed a couple of different women.
Or something?
Yeah, and now he's on trial. He's going on trial again. He was arrested.
Oh, wow.
And he mumbled during the documentary, I did it, or something.
Right.
Oh, was it the one Robert? What's his name? Are you thinking of the something? That was that?
Yeah,
the
something. Yeah, no.
The curse.
I can't remember.
The jinx.
The jinx. That was the first one.
Yeah.
That was a game changer. And then we had Making a Murderer, and now Surviving R. Kelly, and then tonight, we'll see with.
Well, there's nothing to arrest.
Well, let's think about documentaries. Even with that person, they followed him, and they just happened to have his mic on when he went to the bathroom. So you follow somebody who might be guilty of something long enough, trying to prove themselves innocent.
Right.
They're gonna slip. They're gonna slip, and they're gonna say something that's wait a minute, that doesn't add up, and there we go.
Robert Durst.
Yes.
Robert Durst. You know why I remember that? Because we were forced to report on that. Remember, you and I would be that's gonna get 2 clicks. 2 clicks. We kept getting forced to report on that. Because you know me, I have a certain taste of the stories. I'm like, do we gotta cover this? Although Natalie Wood's death being reopened was the most. I was at Hollywood Reporter at the time, and I couldn't stop reporting on that. That was an amazing story. Okay, so next, let's get to some fluffy fare. Well, it's probably not fluffy in their life, but this Khloé Kardashian, Tristan Thompson, and Jordyn Woods is a hot mess. It's just a mess. I don't normally cover Kardashian stories, but I'm so happy to cover this one because I'm actually team Jordyn in this, and I'll tll you why, and then I want to get your feedback. So, for those of you who don't know, Khloé Kardashian's baby daddy, they're not married, correct?
Yeah.
Baby daddy, Tristan Thompson, allegedly hooked up with Jordyn Woods, who is Kylie Jenner, Khloé's sister's best friend, and lives in her house. I think works as her quote-unquote assistant.
They have a makeup line together.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So she's part of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's got she don't even have to worry, though.
Well, no, it's gone
No,
out.
now
They
it's
pull the
gone.
products away from the website.
Okay, I didn't know this.
It's
You're
gone.
spilling tea to me.
And she does not live
Jordyn
at
was
Kylie's
part
house.
of Kylie's makeup line, and now, but she'll get to keep the proceeds probably from,
Well, they're getting rid of whatever merchandise is left. The product is left.
That got cut off real quick.
Yeah, but she'll build
Right.
new.
She'll do something.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, Jordyn Woods is accused of hooking up. Well, she admitted that they hooked up, but I guess what's in question is how far it went. They were at some party hanging out.
Yeah.
What I found fascinating about this, and this is the part I want to cover, Jada Pinkett Smith, who has Red Table Talk on Facebook, which I absolutely love that talk show. I'm sure you both watch. She is Jordyn Woods was like a childhood friend to them, so their families are very close.
Yeah, with their kids, yeah.
She allowed, Jordyn came on and broke her silence to Jada. And I guess the interesting thing, Jordyn basically said during the interview that she shouldn't have been there. She knows she did wrong, but that she, wasn't giving him a lap dance, she says they didn't have sex, that he kissed her and that was it. Regardless of the fact, I find it to be horrible that the family has come out so publicly against this girl, and why is it not like just a Tristan and Khloé problem? Why is this a Jordyn Woods problem?
I think because it's so easy to blame the girl, even though it's his problem because he has done this before.
Yes.
Right when Khloé was about to give birth. That's why she gave birth right there. I actually have an interesting tweet.
Okay.
This is from Jessica Noah Morgan, who is a freelance journalist, and she says, why is it always up to women to have to justify their actions when men are the ones who are in the wrong? Why isn't Tristan Thomas on Red Table Talk justifying his actions?
That's what I agree with. So, but it feels that the way that maybe it's just because the Kardashians and Jenners have such a large following that it seems like this avalanche of hate towards Jordyn. But I'm like, I said this. I don't believe that there's such a thing as a home wrecker, period.
Right.
Because to me, it's like if a relationship can be wrecked, you had problems already.
Right.
So that's how I feel.
Yeah.
So I'm like defending it because I'm like, sure, she screwed up, but this is not her problem. This is Khloé and Tristan's problem. So I'm like maybe in the minority on this.
No, I agree with you.
You agree?
Well, it comes
But
down
people
to
are being so vicious.
who controls the narrative.
Yes.
And so when you have such a big following and such huge, numbers, that if you attack the woman and say she did it, it's her fault, all the people attack that.
Right.
As opposed to saying this happened before, we have evidence it happened before, we know it happened before. I've heard so little about the actions, and even she spoke at Red Table. She said he pulled in and kissed me, and I said no. So then that was the first time I heard that.
Yeah.
Because other than that, we've been so easy to attack her. And why is it that we always attack the female?
Yeah.
It takes two to tango, and it's like you automatically give the blame to the female.
Well, I think Tristan's the dog. He's the dog in this.
Yeah, and they kind of hinted at that on Saturday Night Live, but I mean,
Oh,
Khloé, but not everyone is, rallying to Khloé's defense. I mean, she was pretty much ripped to shreds on social media.
She was?
Because she said, she said
Yeah.
Jordyn had broken up her family.
That's what I'm talking about. That's
but
the
then
comment
she
I'm talking
received
about.
so much criticism. She put out another statement yesterday on social media, on Twitter, and said, really Tristan is at fault. But I just want to mention this. I was at an industry function a couple of days ago interviewing the producers. It was like a meet and greet of a new indie film.
Yeah.
And they said that it's so hard to break through the noise of crap like this that the media becomes so distracted by, I'm just going to say it, bullshit like this that substantive stories it's hard to break through. And I thought that is really an interesting take. And they said everywhere we look, we see Khloé Kardashian, Tristan Thompson-Jordyn, but what about, what's really happening in Hollywood? So I just want to put that out there.
Oh, I agree with you, but we've beat that drum here on Meet the Hollywood Press everywhere, because it's so rare. Like, this is we're like 5 months in running, and we could count the amount of stories we've covered on them, because I don't believe in covering junk.
No, but this was all the top trends. I'm not knocking you, because this is what America is talking about.
Right.
All the top trends on Twitter on Friday when Red Table Talk aired, it was like Jordyn, Tristan, Khloé, Kardashians. Like, the Kardashians are... It's this huge empire.
Yeah.
And they have to stay relevant, I feel like.
Well, it's multiplying by generation like gremlins. Feed them after midnight and they multiply. No. So I just want to put it out there that I feel like, I think it's unfortunate that any of this is even dirty laundry. Yeah. Some people were also, again, it always goes to, is Kris Jenner just... pulling the strings, and this is just for a storyline. I don't think that Jordyn Woods would put herself through this for a storyline unless that was a big ass payout. But I just thought it was interesting. Jada Pinkett Smith I find incredibly credible, and I love her and respect her deeply. And for her to have put her on there to really want her to get her story out, I find very telling in all of this. And it's just like... Also, Khloé's history with men, I mean...
Not good.
It's not good. It's just sort of like, so what's actually going on that you constantly have men cheating on you? Maybe that's more...
I don't know.
Instead of but instead of attacking this young girl, like on Twitter, you broke up... Nobody can break up your family.
Right.
You got issues if someone's cheating.
Well, you want to put the blame on
something.
something.
It's the type of men that she's choosing. Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Well, they need to take it up with their men then. Any final thoughts on that? Overheard Hollywood. Now, I hear, Harvey, you have an interesting story. To tell us.
Well, I just recently, I'm not even going to name any names, but I was with the PR firm.
Oh, we're no names then.
Yeah, no names, but you can figure it out probably. But I was invited to this red carpet event, and, I was really clear when I joined this PR firm that person who's,
being repped, so we should be clear. He's an actor, so he's being repped.
Yeah,
actor,
and,
producer, writer.
The producer, or a PR agent's job is to walk down the carpet and send you interviews and whatnot. And I went to this event and I was told that I wasn't going to be walked down the carpet. And I said, but they invited me. He's like, yeah, but they'll have someone that walk you, so it's fine. I was like, okay, cool. And I thought, that's weird. And I was like, so I walked to the carpet. It's raining outside the event. You have to wait in this regular line to get in if you want to walk the carpet. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Usually the PR person goes straight to the front. I wait an hour in line. I see my friend come out of the car. She's an actress, Kat McNamara. She gives me a hug and I was like, oh, hey. And she walks through the VIP area with her PR rep, which is my PR people.
Oh, God.
And I looked and I was like, whoa, what's happening? And then the second car pulls up and it's another actor friend of mine who's also with that PR firm. And I just felt and I started putting the numbers in. I was like livid. I texted like, are you sure no one can be walked down this carpet? Because I see a lot of people being walked down this carpet. And eventually they're like, no one's allowed inside the event, so they're gonna have someone walk you from Teen Vogue and blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, great. And I was like, but who's gonna walk me? Because I see these people being walked.
Yeah.
I get to the front of the line finally after an hour and a half, and I'm about to walk to the carpet, and they take the picture of the little sign and whatnot, and I'm walking. They stop the carpet because a bigger name has walked to the other side of the VIP.
Yes.
And guess who stopped me? My
PR firm
to let Dove Cameron walk up to the
carpet,
who's also...
Did you get to the bottom of like why this happened?
Apparently it was a misunderstanding, that's what they said. But how did you misunderstand that 3 clients, more actually, there's like 5 clients there from the same PR firm, were walked down the carpet? And I did the math and I looked, and unfortunately it just looked really bad. It was all white actors who were walked on the carpet, and I was the only person that celebrating the diversity issue on Teen Vogue.
We should do a story on shady publicists, because I have a lot of
and I was surprised, and it was really heartbroken. And at this point, I wasn't going to fire anyone. I just wanted to have a conversation. I was like, hey, I was really hurt. Can we talk? And then their response was, can we stop talking about this? This happened 4 days ago. It was a misunderstanding, and yada, yada, yada. And that's my story. So PR, you never know what's going on behind closed doors.
Oh, we're going to talk more off camera about that deeper.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you have anything overheard Hollywood?
I do. So we don't have much time left, but head to urbanhollywood411.com. I interviewed Scott Evans from Access, who's the new host of World of Dance, and he told me the shocking story of how he got that job, which basically said never turn down an opportunity, because you never know what can happen while you're on that opportunity. So head to urbanhollywood411.com. That's Scott on the screen. It's a great interview.
Wonderful. Alina, could you tell all our viewers and listeners where they can find us?
Absolutely. You guys can always find us on the AfterBuzz TV YouTube page. You could subscribe to MTHP on Apple Podcasts. Rate us, like us, give us those good reviews. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Meet the Hollywood Press and on Twitter at Meet the HWD Press.
And thank you for tuning in. We will see you next Sunday. Goodbye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.